This episode of the Focus Action Results podcast is brought to you by Accelerate Performance, creators of the Focus Action Results course and the FAR Planner. Welcome to the podcast that promises you'll be much more productive with me, your host, Ralph Varcoe. Welcome to another episode of the Focus Action Results podcast. So I hope you are very well indeed and that you are on your path to achieving all the goals that you want to. Now, if you are a little bit stuck and you're looking for a bit of inspiration and a bit of help, that's what this podcast is all about. Today, we are going to look at the different types of goals that you can have. Not all goals are the same. They fit into different categories. We're going to look at those and we're going to go through a few examples of each and we'll look at which of those categories are the kinds of categories that I think are the ones that we should focus in on. So when I have clients and we talk in terms of the coaching as to what they're looking to achieve, we talk about the three different categories and then I make a recommendation as to which categories are the ones that we should probably spend most of our time in. Now that might sound like I'm making a judgment and I'm suggesting to you that you shouldn't have many goals in the other categories. And of course that is what I'm doing and it's based on some experience. But the interesting thing is that while I make that recommendation at the beginning of a session to people and they kind of look at me and they kind of think, well, hang on a second, really? By the end of the session, they're going, actually, do you know what? That makes so much sense. So all will be revealed and you make your own decision about whether that is right or not. They're your goals. It's entirely up to you. And, you know, if they really are your goals, then I encourage you to go after them. So as I say, all will be revealed. The first question that's on your mind is, what are those categories? Well, they split down into three categories. There are goals that sit in the B category. So that is to be something, to become something, to change the nature of the who you are. Then there's the category of to do. So do goals. Those are goals where, funnily enough, you go and you do something. You want to run a marathon, you want to climb a mountain, you want to be a pilot, or rather you want to fly a plane. Being a pilot is more of a B goal. So the do goals are about doing things. And then the last category are have goals. So you want to have a fast car. You want to have a nice house. And so broadly, I think you can break down any goal into any one of those three categories. Now, I was doing a bit of research for this show and I came across a quote which I thought was really quite good. In fact, there are a number of versions of this. You may well have heard them before. There's a joke that says to be is to do is to be, and dooby-dooby-doo. The last one being attributed to Frank Sinatra. Now, interestingly, that Frank Sinatra quote comes from one of his songs, Strangers in the Night. And there have been many versions of this joke, which apparently started as a piece of graffiti in, I think it was the early 1980s, and then subsequently got changed. And the people that each of those quotes were attributed to at the beginning have actually changed over time. A classic example of you know that game of what we hear in the UK called Chinese whispers, which effectively means that things change over time and you're not quite sure how. Anyway, I thought it was quite interesting that it's been expanded over time, and it's become more than just those three that I mentioned. You've got to do is to be, Socrates. To be or not to be, Shakespeare. To be is to do, Jean-Paul Sartre. Dooby-dooby-doo, Frank Sinatra. Yabba-dabba-doo, Fred Flintstone. Dabba-dabba-doo, Kate Bush. Scooby-dooby-doo, Scooby-Doo. And Hey Boo-Boo, Yogi Bear. Anyway, bit of light-hearted stuff there. But the most important thing is to think about goals in terms of to be, to do, and to have. Right. So which one of those three do I say you shouldn't really focus on? And that category is the have category. You may go, yeah, but I would see as a measure of my success that I would want to have a really nice house. I might want to have a second home by the beach somewhere. I may want to have a wonderful car, and I might want to have a wonderful family. All of those things are absolutely valid. But notice what I said at the beginning there was that you might say, as a measure of my success, I would like to have those things. You may feel you deserve to have those things. And that might be right. But it's as a measure of your success. Have goals are results of other goals. So, you want to have a nice house or you have a fast car. But in order to have either of those, you've got to have achieved a number of things. And those things will be and do goals, right? So nobody starts off with a ton of money, well, unless they inherit it, but that isn't the majority of us. And so you have to work your way up to having enough to be able to buy a car or a lovely house. And in order to work your way up to that, you have to focus on the things that need to be done. So you need to get a job. You need to do the work. You need to do what you need to do to get the promotion. You need to do what you need to do to make the sale. You need to do what you need to do to get customers to buy, and therefore for you to get the commission, for you to get the bonuses, for you to be able to earn enough that on the back of your doing, you can have things. And in the same way, the same analogy, you want to have those things. It's not just the doing, but you need to be a different person and to evolve and have be goals to get you to that point too. So when you get a first job, you take on a role, but you need to be a different role as you go up the organization to earn more. You need to be a salesperson. You then need to be a sales manager. You then need to be a sales director. You need to learn things which evolve you to make you become something different, something more evolved and educated and able. So all of those things are be goals, which added to the do goals enable you to get the have goals. So I would always advocate being really focused on the be and the do quadrants in order that you can then result in having a number of things at the back end of it. So what does that mean? Well, it's entirely up to you what you set as your goals, but in terms of be goals, these are about you being something. It's about you deciding that you want to take a course and become more educated or more skilled in something. It's about being a better parent or being a better husband or wife. So those kinds of goals fit into the be category. And as I said before, the do goals are those such as climbing a mountain or going on a travel trip to Asia, for example, to experience things. So be really clear about which category each of your goals fit into, and then once you know which area they fit, be very clear about what it is that you're going to feel, hear, see as a result of achieving those, and break down each of those goals into manageable bite-sized chunks that enable you to get to them. So we're going to talk more about the whole goal setting process in a future podcast, but for today I wanted to just take you through those three categories: be, do and have. Spend most of your time thinking about the goals in your be and your do categories, because the ones in your have categories will come as a result of you being and doing things through your life. They're the ones that make you into a better person. And the problem with have goals is that you can become so obsessed about having and owning something that it really doesn't play well to many people, many of the people I speak to, myself included, in terms of who we want to be as human beings. There's this big thing when you're setting goals, which is to look at your purpose and the purpose of each of those goals, and is the purpose of the goal congruent with your lifestyle, your life choices, your situation. And if having something is the be-all and end-all of who you are, you're going to miss out on so many other things that are important, probably important. Now clearly if you live on your own, you have no friends, no dependents, no family, you can do what you like and you can spend your money on what you like. You can have all the fast cars in the world. But if you have other responsibilities and other facets of your life that you want to develop, then I would say that the have goal category should be the third on your list. But who am I to tell you that? I'm making a suggestion because it's congruent with the way that I operate and the way that I live my life. And I'm making that suggestion because that's the experience I have with many of the people that I see and go through the whole goal setting process with. But it is entirely up to you. They are your goals. Right, so between now and the next episode, I'd like you to sit down, actually write down some of your goals on a piece of paper. Remember, we talked about the power of handwriting, actually the cursive script in a previous episode, and how important that is to making sure that you embed things to become part of you. So I want you to take a piece of paper out, get a pen, and actually write down what your goals are, and then categorize them. Do they fit into the be, the do, or the have category? And evaluate them. All right, how many have you got in each category? And which ones are the most important from each of those categories. In a future episode, we'll talk about the whole goal setting process, going from the ultimate goals through to the process steps which are underneath it that enable you to get to that goal. But for now, focus on what the goals are, write them down, categorize them, and see what you come up with. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Focus Action Results podcast. If you found it interesting, then please subscribe, and also let others know that it exists and encourage them to subscribe and to listen as well. I will speak to you again in the next episode and look forward to that. Have a great week until then.
I hope that was helpful for you today and you enjoyed listening to the Focus Action Results podcast. If it was either helpful or enjoyable, or heaven forbid both, please subscribe, leave feedback, share with friends and family, and tweet it loud with the hashtag Focus Action Results podcast.